All right, welcome guys to the Sports Card Podcast channel. I'm your host, the Car Boss. Today I got a special guest. It's my friend Jason, or Yellow Egg Collectibles. Jason and we kind of met about 2 years ago, and we've been working together ever since. And I'm super excited to have him on the show. Jason, how are you going, man?
Yes, hey Pang Ming. Thanks for having me on. Really looking forward to this chatting hobby and life with you again. So
Awesome.
yeah, just hanging out tonight, spend some time with you. Yeah, what's up?
Excellent, excellent, man. Thanks for doing this. I had Sean, our common friend Sean on the channel.
Mm.
So there
Yep.
was a lot of good feedback, and people wanted to hear more, especially from the Malaysian side. So, of course, the goal of this podcast is to not only to talk to guys from our Malaysian backyard, but also to reach out into other parts of Asia. So I've got guests lined up from common friend Carlos,
Mm.
if you know him, from
Yeah,
Philippines.
yes,
Yes,
sir.
so I have
Yep.
him coming up soon, and a
Nice,
couple of my friends from Hong Kong as well.
nice.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually
So
meeting Carlos next week.
yes, he mentioned
Yeah,
there's a show in Philippines right next week.
yes, sir. Yep.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so we chat a bit. I know a bit about you, and I know you're a pastor, but tell me a bit about your story. How from past. I know you did something with the food truck business, and how do you come about to selling sports cars for Yellow Egg Collectibles?
Mhm. Right. So my background has always been in clergy, some spiritual input and those church leadership. And it was just a progression of going into food business because that's something that me and my brother we are kind of good at and have passion for food. So we delved into F&B for about 8 to 9 years because we had a lot of college students who were needing to do their internship, before they finish their studies, and then just giving them like life skills, right? So we were going that path, was growing pretty all right. And then somewhere between 2018, 2019, we kind of felt that uh, for Malaysia at least, the retail F&B wasn't doing well, or there were a lot of unpredictable things that we weren't sure of if we could further expand and all that. So we began to downsize all the way till COVID. And then when the lockdowns happened, in hindsight, thankfully we started downsizing earlier than when the lockdowns happened. So when the lockdowns happened, um, we closed down all our restaurants,
Right.
and we had our catering wing left. So, but events weren't going to come back anytime soon. So we, liquidated as much equipment as we could. Finish our tenancy contract, those kind of things. And then I was left with um, a lot of time, and we moved some of our equipment, basic equipment, to a small, like a Soho unit sort of thing, so we could still
Right.
do like parties and stuff for like maybe 30, 40 packs, things like that. So half of the space was kind of underutilized, and that's where the I think the rekindling of time and passion and interest for the hobby came back because we had a lot of free time during the lockdowns.
Right,
Uh,
right.
that's how
Did
you
you did you
transition.
collect when you were like way before that when you were young?
Yeah, yeah. So I guess because we collected as a family, I have two other cousins, me and my younger brother. So four of us, we collected a lot of sports cards and like pop culture, Marvel, X-Men, those kind of
Right,
things.
right, right. Yeah, like most
Yeah,
most of us did lah.
yeah. We collected that from like since we were kids, all till like college age, and then we just had a lot of other stuff going on in life, so we just stopped collecting at some point, all the way till COVID, and then uh, my eldest cousin had to move to another state, so
Right.
then we had to clear things. So we're looking through all our storage and all our collectibles, cards, and all that, and he was telling me that no way I'm going to move all of our cards cross state in like a mover's lorry or truck.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I've just moved my kitchen equipment to this Soho place, which isn't far from his place. So we were like, okay, why don't we just park all of our cards and collectibles um, to this place that I'll be probably stuck in for the next, I don't know, a year, 2 years during the lockdown. Which turned out to be 2 years, right? Almost.
Yeah, man, it was. I
Yeah,
think it was pretty hard the first 6 or 9 months. I think for us. After that, it
yeah.
was loose a bit, and then again, it went
Mm,
lockdown again.
mm-hmm. Yep, yep. So that was 2020 to 2022 or
Right.
so. Yeah, yeah. So I was just a whole room and living room full of cards and
Cards.
stuff, and just sorting it through.
The thing
Yeah,
was
and
this,
that was the boom time of the hobby. So I guess it was good. Yeah.
correct. When I first met you, I think was 2022. I think, or was it
Yeah.
2023? I can't remember. You had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of cards, really, a lot of good cards, especially from the 90s. So was that the era that you guys started?
Yeah. My eldest cousin, he started in the 80s.
Okay.
So he pretty much watched like from Jordan's first championship, the first three
Ah,
peat he was there. I guess I was only there during the second three peat or so.
okay.
Yeah, so we collected together, I guess, heavily in the 90s, all the way to the early 2000s. The year before the bronze rookie year, we stopped. Yeah.
Got it. So then, in that case, of course, when I first met you, you started to we met in a show, and then you started selling some cards, local show, and then
Mm.
after that, we did Macau together. So, but at that point in time, you already established a yellow egg collectible. So tell the audience, how did this unique name come about?
Yeah. So I was discussing with my cousin, like, I think it's good to, uh, identify ourselves as something. So when people come across us at, maybe card shows or whatever, and there could be a reference point, right?
Hmm.
So we're like, okay, let's try and think of a name easy to remember, catchy enough. So very funny story. Okay, it was like the most simplistic thing, but like light bulb went off. So we all grow up like speaking Rojak. In Malaysian, it's like a mix of
Right.
whatever languages and dialects that we have. Because we're not particularly great at any of the Chinese dialects.
Right.
We could speak like a little to our, grandparents, and
Hmm.
that's about it. So um, we speak English mainly. So I did a direct translation of our family surnames.
Okay.
So yeah, so I'm Wong and my cousins are Tan. So
Right.
literally yellow egg.
Ah.
So in Cantonese, yeah.
I
So
got it. Got it.
that's
Oh, okay.
the origin story, so to speak.
The funny thing was when I first saw you have a very nice cool logo, right? Okay, so when I first saw yellow egg, the first thing that came to my mind was actually Gudetama. Do you know
Okay,
Gudetama from Japan?
right, right,
Right,
right.
that egg yolk thingy.
Yes.
That's right. So anyway, so what are you doing now? So are you selling cards full time? Okay, sorry guys, technical issue earlier. Okay, Jason,
Yep.
let's continue. Okay, the
Okay.
question I asked was, are you doing cards full time at the moment?
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say full time, but definitely heavily involved in the hobby and cards that we have because it's a family collection, and from the discussion that we had was that I'll be the main ones that would be the custodian of all our cards, and we'll spend the next few years to sort through them, looking through all the values, you know sending a bunch for grading, going for card shows, things like that. So yeah, pretty much heavily involved because I'm not busy doing the usual 9 to 5 grind. So uh,
Right,
mainly a lot my time is with family and some of my responsibilities for church and stuff. So the rest
right,
of it is, anyway, I mean, the people business, so to speak. So cards really connect people, meeting people, going for card shows. So I find
right.
pretty much, in what I'm actually doing. So yeah.
Awesome. So does it mean? I mean, you mentioned your brother and two cousins. So you have your collection of cards
Mm.
is basically split four ways, or is that like everybody has their own little segments within that collection?
I think when we were active, really active, in our younger days, we
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, okay, these are your cards, these are mine cards,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
player do you PC, things like that. And then when we do like, say like card breaks together, then it's like we have a list of players that is our PC, and then whatever that we hit will go to whoever PCs which players. So
Okay.
pretty much then through the years we got older and older, then we got busy with other things in life, and it was all just like at one or two places, just like in storage, right? So during uh, the lockdowns of COVID,
Right.
and I
Mm.
decided just to consolidate everything, like just whoever has whatever cards, just all put it in one
Together.
place, so Jason can take time to go through all of them and figure out
Right.
what was going on. Yeah,
I saw some of the cards. I mean, of course, this was just a couple of years back, right? When you first met, I saw some of those stuff that you have. You had jambalayas, you had super good 90s inserts, essential credentials. All of these cards, right? When we first met in 2023, okay,
Mm.
these cards were like super high price during the peak of pandemic,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yep.
So and you're saying that all of these cards were kept in boxes or somewhere in storage, at that point in time.
Yeah. So that taught us a good lesson that we wished we continued really looking after our collection earlier,
Right.
because when the boom happened, we were like looking at all these values and crazy stuff happening every other day.
Mm.
Higher sales this, higher sales that, and we were looking like, okay, we do have some of these cards, but mostly they were not graded. Uh,
Right.
so then we were really reluctant, like, okay, so we wouldn't also want to let go this if it actually could grade well, and and then we let it go at way lower at like a raw price.
Right. So
But
you didn't want to leave the upside on the table, basically.
yeah, yeah. So we were like, since we have it, and then my cousins were like, oh, since Jason's volunteering anyway, to put in the time, then why not? Let's try get back in the hobby. Let's see what's happening, especially around our region. So I think the timing was really interesting that suddenly there was news of card shows coming up in our region that we didn't have to fly to the States uh
Right.
for a bit.
Correct.
So
Correct.
yeah, so that
But
was interesting. Yeah.
yeah, well, coming back to the pandemic time, the time in 2020, especially early 2020, cards back then they flew up like what 5x,
Mhm.
10x of where they used to be. So
Yeah.
obviously with grading, that they increased the value even further. So it's come down quite a fair bit since then, like more
Yeah.
than 50% lah, during the peaks of the pandemic. So,
Mhm.
the decision to not move any of those cards, in the raw state, because you wanted not to leave any money on the table, kind of a bit backfired a bit, because these days, the
We-
price, even though they're
Yeah, yeah.
good cards, but they're not, where it was previously, lah, even though in a raw state.
Yeah. So we had quite lengthy discussions. We kind of had a game plan going on. Like at some point we have to, get some value back from it. And if we were to continue in a hobby again, there will be costs involved, right? Like going to card shows,
Right,
all these,
right.
involves costs. So what I did was I went through our stuff, and kind of can start to gauge again like what cards were ultra rare, and so those we kind of like we were not rushing to like move it,
Yep.
but we had a lot of I mean, hindsight was our best friend because we collected in the 90s and early 2000s. So all the players from that era, we had the advantage of knowing who ended up being Hall of Famers, who ended up being the all-time
Right,
great, and all that. So
right.
we started looking through all the duplicates, like even base cards of say like greats like Bill Russell, MJ, Kobe, those guys. We did move a lot of duplicates. Like these were like, okay, like we need cash flow. We
Right,
we need to get new, for example, like sleeves and top loaders and whatever.
right.
So we did move quite a fair bit, to be fair.
Yeah,
So
we did a trade, right? You and I, we did a trade for one
yeah,
of
yeah.
your 57 Flair Jordans.
I think that was like our first big trade in
Right.
probably 25 years or something like that.
I remember what was the trade, but I remember it was like Flair 57 Jordan, one or two more cars for like a bunch of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
modern
We
stuff.
did
It
we
was
did quite
Lucas,
quite a bunch.
Steph's. Yeah,
Yeah,
remember that.
yeah.
So basically, you were mentioning, Asia is getting more car shows, and then we went for the first
Mhm.
first Asian car show in Macau in end of 2023, right?
Yeah.
And then you went the one last year as well in 2024.
Mhm.
So tell me about the Macau show for those who has never been to the Macau show. What
Yeah.
was the experience for your perspective between 2023 and then how was your experience in the last one in 2024?
Mhm. I think 2023 was more of just an eye opener because we all we had was like looking at TV programs or YouTube of other content creators,
Mm.
mainly shows in probably a little bit in Europe, but majority in the US.
US, yeah.
And we're looking how big nationals are and all those, and we've never even
Mhm.
been to a small one, let alone a big one.
Yeah.
So when the Macau news came out, we were like, I guess it was good timing as well because I think that was my first trip after the lockdowns, and
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I think it was my first.
Actually, perhaps that was mine. That was mine as well.
Yeah, probably, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, timing wise, uh, just go have exposure, see
Mm.
how events of that scale work. And the first year, I think none of us actually had any plans to even be a vendor. Like we didn't go for after tables or anything. We didn't.
Right. It was
Yeah.
expensive though. So of course I did some homework, prior to, but again, I didn't know anybody at that time going to the show. I knew some people, but they were kind of like you just want to just get the feel, get the vibe,
Yeah.
of an Asian car show. We watched so much content about it in the
Mhm.
US, and then we just want to see. And then it was heavily promoted as well. It's supposed to be like 200 tables or something like that, right? Remember you're saying
Mhm.
how many 15,000 square feet hall,
Yeah.
and all the promotional stuff.
Yeah.
But you and I, we both went there. For me personally, it felt a bit short, lah. Expectation,
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was
right?
it hadn't found its identity, or so to speak,
Mm,
and purpose. It was just like let's have one in Asia and invite as many
right.
people as possible. And I think for a lot of collectors, we didn't really know what to prepare. Like we didn't know who going to be there and whatever. So
Mm,
probably didn't even have any idea about our
yeah.
inventory, like what we wanted to bring and all. But I went there. I
Correct.
think the first day I was just enjoying myself, just visiting all the all the booths,
All the
all the
booths.
sponsor booths, and
You,
getting
you did
whatever
you did
freebies that I could.
that little treasure hunting that you need to walk around and collect
Yeah,
stamps or stickers, right?
yeah.
Something
I was
like
just I
that.
was just going collecting freebies from any booth that I came across. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was there. The show was 3 days: Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I was there the first day as well, early, and then Saturday I was there for about half a day. But I didn't even bother to go on Sunday because
Mm.
the deals dry up pretty quickly. On Saturday, so I didn't think that I wanted to go back on Sunday. But I heard 2024 was a bit different. I skipped 2024, which I'm going
Mhm.
to talk about why after this. But you went for 2024. How was it different this time around?
I think the last year of the first year, like first year everybody want to go and have a look.
Hmm.
That faded. So then what was revealed is like, okay, this is the actual scene of how the card show was supposed to be, I guess.
Hmm.
So it's like timing wise, it wasn't exactly the same as the first year. So
Yep.
I think the capturing of the crowd was also slightly different. And by 2024, there were other card shows going on in the region as well. So
Right.
um, I think there's a factor that uh, the turnout was all right, but as so second year 2025 actually went as a vendor as well.
Hmm.
So as a vendor's perspective for the second year, uh, the retail crowd wasn't as much as what I hoped for. Uh,
As in the foot traffic.
in the foot traffic of actual people that uh, pay to be there for all 3 days or to be there
Right.
for a full day just to find deals or visit as many vendors or booths as they
Hmm.
could. So the hope of like what we are exposed to, like when we watch the nationals and everything, is like there's way more participants than vendors, right? Uh,
Right.
so after the first and a half day, like once the second day started and it's all right. You know, if the day started slow, we're kind of used to that and expecting that. But it was like, say, like afternoon after lunch, and it didn't feel like it was gonna become into really, really high gear where we will be, struggling a little bit at the tables to entertain, uh, potential customers
Right.
and collectors. So what actually the show really turned out into was that if you're a vendor and if you wanted to trade like across
Mm-hmm.
regions, uh, then that was the place to be. Because, like, for example, for us Malaysians,
Mm.
there's only so much collectors of certain kinds of cards or sports. And
Right.
after a while, we keep meeting up in Malaysia as well. It's like, okay, this is your card, this is my card, that is Sean's cards, and
Right.
I I don't want to buy it, but I appreciate it. And then there's really not much to deal with for certain types of cards. So when we went there, and I realized that, okay, so different vendors from different countries, they kind of brought a certain bunch of cards where, let's say I'm from Malaysia, I probably wouldn't really see those cards all the time,
Right.
vice versa.
Right.
So there was a lot of vendor to vendor deals in the end. Like, I think the most of Saturday, the second day, and then the whole of Sunday was just like vendors just going around trying to
So
um,
it became like a vendor show as instead of
yes, everyone was actually reshuffling their inventory, because everyone's like,
right.
hey, like these cards, I don't see it in my country. I don't see it a lot of it. So if I trade out some of mine now, or cash out some of mine now and bought these and brought it back, then a whole bunch of collectors could be waiting, like, oh, we don't usually get to see these cards, and
Right. Right.
it turned out that there were a lot of huge deals that went on. But I
Mm-hmm.
would say that it's a lot. The big deals were between vendors, because we had
Right.
people from Australia, New Zealand, Japan, I believe, um, China, and Southeast Asia as well. We had some Americans coming. I think Burbank set up for a day and a half as well. Uh,
Yep. Yep.
so yeah, so there were a lot of those deals going on.
Yeah, so I mean, you're talking about a couple hundred vendors present during the show, whereas the expected crowd coming in is like a few thousand, right? So,
Yeah.
having to fly into Macau, maybe Macau itself was not the right destination, but maybe they felt that was kind of central in Asia. So, but just to have a show, where vendors can just cross barter, it's a bit wasted. But although we see a lot of that in the US, vendors doing deals with other vendors as well.
Mhm.
Yep. But shifting from Macau 2024 to Hong Kong 2024
Yeah.
in December, where you and I both set up, okay, that was a completely 180 vibe.
Yeah.
Would you agree? Right.
100%. Yeah.
So tell me, I will share my views on Hong Kong, but
Right.
tell me your view on how was it different?
Yeah. So I think I would give a bit of background for Hong Kong show. Initially, I wasn't actually planning to go. And then actually before the Macau one, you did ask me as well, like, am I considering to go to Hong Kong? I said, for now I can't say yes. I really don't know because I'm already going for the Macau one. Then when
Yeah.
I was at Macau, I met a lot of Hong Kong vendors and collectors, and they were telling other vendors from probably around our region, so like a lot of vendors from Southeast Asia, and the Hong Kong collectors were telling us like, okay, Hong Kong Winter Show is coming up next month. Like, you guys got to come because that's where the collectors are. That's where the scene is. There are a lot of card shops in Hong Kong. Every other weekend, they're actually going to each other's shops, having some sort of collaboration, trade days, and all those kind of things.
Yep.
So they were like saying, you have to come. There's still a few spaces left for the Hong Kong Winter Show.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, I promise you, it will not be. The vibes will be different. Will be, So I'm like, okay. Then I mentioned to you that, okay, I think I'll be going. And then started to make plans for it. And well, in hindsight, I think, thank goodness we did. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think I was there earlier on the first day because your flights were delayed.
Mm.
Uh, and then I was really texting you like, it's busy from the first minute. People were already waiting to come in to the hall, and I haven't even set up properly. I'm just opening my boxes, taking out my cards and slabs, and people are already, just wanting to see what my inventory was. So I think the
Yeah.
total 180, like you said, 180 change in terms of, I guess the grassroots there are strong. So it felt really like the whole place, was electric, right? Like there's so many people,
Nice.
so many deals going on left and right. Even at a particular moment, deals are not going on at your table, but left and right, there'll be deals going on. So, um, yeah, glad we did that. Glad we shared our
Yeah,
experience and all that. Yeah.
my story is a bit weird for Hong Kong. So because of Macau the year before, right? So Macau show is again Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So when I flew into Hong Kong and subsequently went to Macau on a Thursday, so I kind of like had half a day wasted, not knowing what to do. And the show only started at 12 o'clock on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ideally shows should start earlier at 10 o'clock, but I don't know why they want to start shows at 12 in Macau. So I found that myself wasted like half a day, or in fact almost an entire full day on so-called on the journey. So when it came to Hong Kong last year, the show was going to start at 12 or so, correct?
Yeah.
And so I decided that I just didn't want to waste a night stay, and arrive Thursday night, and then kind of like waste another half a day just loitering around for the show to begin. So I cleverly booked a flight, to leave a 8 a.m. flight and to
Uh-huh.
arrive in Hong Kong at 12 noon
Yeah.
supposedly. Okay, and maybe get to the show by the time get into the city, check in, put in luggage, and my hotel is pretty next to the venue.
Uh-huh.
I'd hope to get to the venue at like maybe like 2:30. Just a couple hours later, right?
Yeah.
But who's to know? The flight was like delayed couple hours. Then I was stuck in immigration. By the time I got to the show, it was like what 4:30, right? I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
about 4:30.
Mhm. Yep.
Back then when I went there, the place was packed. Really, it was
Yep.
crazy, man.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So it's insane. So like what you mentioned, the foot traffic in Hong Kong, it was totally different. I talked to some of my friends in Hong Kong as well, and they said that it's because the collector base in Hong Kong, for sports cars and also for TCG, right? They go, like what you said, they go around all the shops within
Mm-hmm.
Hong Kong.
Yep.
So, and this was a weekend that all shops were present in one
Yes.
location.
Yes.
So it meant that all collectors were present in
Yep.
one location.
Yep.
So you saw so many people
Yes.
in that show.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's quite insane. So, but following up from that show, right? So of course, coming just in about how many weeks from now? 6 weeks from now, I think,
Mm-hmm.
believe it's our Malaysian show,
Yeah.
right? The Southeast Asia Card Convention, previously known as Superfractor. That's another 3-day show in our own backyard.
Yep.
Okay, the first one they had it last year as well, towards the end of not the end of was it October last year? I think
Yeah.
the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a bit small, but I reckon that they saw something that they like for them to run it back again this year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do you get the any word that is it going to be expected to be a much bigger show than the one before?
I would think so because last year they actually combined it, like it was like a two-in-one event. They combined it with the numismatic collectors as well. So like
Mm-hmm.
half the hall were cards, TCG and
Yep.
sports, and then the other half was like banknotes and coins and
Banknotes and currencies, yeah.
yeah. So they decided this year they would focus, like if they're gonna do card shows, it would be purely just card show. I think the feedback that they got from both participants and vendors last year was that I think Saturday especially was the crowd. There was actually the hall couldn't contain that amount of crowd on
Right.
on Saturday because people could hardly walk between the lanes of the tables.
Mm.
So that was the feedback we gave. Like the response is better than expected, and so based on that, they were like, okay, so this year they'll really look into like if that venue can't hold that crowd, they will really look into a new venue, which in the end that did happen. So
Right.
this year it will be at a different venue, a newer venue.
Yep.
So I heard though that they've been also inviting vendors from our region, not necessarily Malaysia only.
Yep.
And yeah, people are flying in for it. Our Filipino friends are flying in for that as well, setting up a few tables as well. So yeah, hopefully will be a good show. Hopefully the Malaysian crowd will turn out. I think some Singaporeans are coming up as well, some Thais
Yep.
coming down as well. So yeah, so hopefully it continues with some momentum. Yeah.
Oh yeah, hopefully, man. The first show I remember was like maybe what 70% TCG, 30% sports.
Mm,
All right.
yep,
And then I remember the subsequently there was a Singapore show. I can't remember where it was, but there was a one-day show in Singapore. That was like 90% Pokemon. So hopefully cards, sports cards especially, gets better
yep,
traction. Especially in this 3-day show. I'm looking forward to it as well.
yep,
You and I were going to set up again in
yes,
this particular show,
for sure.
so looking forward to that.
Mhm.
Awesome, awesome. So what's next for you? For Yellow Egg. Besides going to shows, what's next? What's on your cards now?
I have just gotten uh, CGC's authorized dealer,
Nice.
so presently working on some collaboration with local card shops, especially the newer ones, um, where they don't have the either focus, manpower, or volume to branch out to too many different ends of the business. So basically, I think the hobby in Malaysia is still very ripe for a lot of growth, a lot of room for the whole scene to grow. Since like I have a first-hand view of how the hobby scene can be with our trip to Hong Kong. I would
Hmm.
really, really love to see that happening here as well. Like probably less uh, head-to-head competition between shops and different people in the hobby. Like it's too early to I want this pie, in the hobby.
Right, right,
There needs
right,
to be a lot of collaboration and community building and all of that. So that's where we're at. I'm trying to collaborate with at least a few shops to
right,
collect submissions for especially TCG because a lot of the shops here are heavily invested in TCG, and
right.
the community is asking like uh, what other services do you provide, and I think the shops are struggling to catch up with the demand. Um, I mean, as is getting stock just to resell for Pokemon
Hmm.
is already an issue
Right.
for them. So like they have to be really laser focused on shop matters, like managing a shop and the day to day and hosting like tournaments and those kind of things because those are um,
Yeah, of
cut
course,
things.
of course.
Yeah, so
Yes.
there's a lot of stuff to look into. I'm just trying to provide additional support and service through that. So um,
Right.
yeah, and going for card shows, uh, meeting people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's touch quickly on CGC before we wrap it up. I was speaking to Sean previously, and he does a group submission for Beckett.
Mhm.
So what does CGC offer? That's
Yeah.
a bit different compared to
Mhm.
PSA and Beckett.
Okay, I think firstly it's long history. In the industry, like I think they were the first that really led grading in comics
Hmm.
from a long time ago, and they were actually the leading ones for TCG for the longest time as well. Uh, and because there's a precedent for, I mean, if you're talking about like high-end price points or price premiums in graded slabs, like there's already a precedent of Beckett's Black Label, right?
Yep. Yep.
So it seems like the next slightly under Beckett Black Label would be the CGC Prestige. Uh,
Right.
for TCG, because PSA is taking the largest pie uh,
Right.
of grading card submissions. So there will be a large population of PSA 10 cards,
Hmm.
and so that there is that niche demand where people are looking for pristine tens if
Right.
they probably can't get a black label ten or something like that. Um, but for me, I think it was very organic in terms of how I lean towards CGC because of uh, going for the card shows the past a year and a half and meeting
Hmm.
people at the card shows. CGC was, I think, by far the most present grading company in the shows, at least in our region. Um, and
Right.
yeah, and they did a lot of free screening and they did a lot of like on-site grading as well. Like Macau, the second show in Macau, they had on-site grading. So I tested out, for myself, how the system was and how their service was and all those things. And it's,
Right.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, fair value. And the cool thing that I think for me made most sense was that there is a Hong Kong HQ as well. And
Mm.
for card submissions, we don't have to submit to US anymore. We just send it over to Hong Kong.
Right. So it's a faster turnaround time, basically.
Yep.
Awesome, awesome. And but I guess it's still very TCG centric, right? Not so much on
Mhm.
sports. Or do you think that there's a bit more shift to sports?
There is some slight shift. Of course, if you're talking price premiums, it's nowhere near PSAs.
Mm.
I think it's probably falling into maybe a similar category as SGC uh,
Mm.
for sports cards. They
Right.
do have some sports cards. Uh, they do have some vintage cards. But I think an interesting niche that I realized that CGC offers is that they are trying to promote now that for sports cards, they do
Hmm.
grade error cards.
They don't. Sorry.
They grade error cards.
Oh, okay.
Meaning,
Yes.
yeah, so those error cards, let's say we send to PSA, we come back a 1 or 2 or something.
Yeah. Correct.
So in
Or they don't even grade it, right?
they don't even grade
Do
it.
not
You
holder or
like,
something like that.
yeah, some code or whatever.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So what CGC does is that they take the error card, they
Hmm.
authenticate the error card, they realize it's error, they'll put a marker on the description that it's an error card, but they'll grade the condition of the card.
Right. So
Yeah.
they acknowledge it's an error, and they'll just still put through their own grading standards on it.
So people who are discovering this now, they're like, hey, I'm going to take all those that the other grading companies refuse to grade.
Right.
And I think the conditions are great. So you could actually, there's a chance to get a pristine 10 on an authentic error card. So
Interesting.
these small little things in the hobby.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Well, so there's one interesting fact that you may or may not be aware. Okay, Goldin Elite Auction that's
Uh-huh.
ending this Sunday has a
Okay.
Victor Wembanyama rookie logo man
Oh wow.
graded CGC 9.5.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
That'll be a good one to watch.
So besides the fact that it's a logo man, I mean this is not the one of one. It's a out of five, I believe.
Mm,
Okay. So besides the fact that it's a logo man, what's capturing people's attention is it's been graded by CGC,
right.
okay, instead of PSA or Beckett,
Yeah.
which people are normally accustomed to, lah.
Yeah.
So that's a big achievement from from the person who's submitting to CGC. The amount of trust that he has to put with CGC. Getting 9.5 is awesome, obviously,
Yeah.
but over PSA and over Beckett, which is the more tried and tested for sports cards, and he chose
Mm,
CGC instead.
yeah. Interesting. Hey, thanks for the info. I think I'll keep a lookout at that. At
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. Awesome. Okay, man. That's it for this one. Thanks for this chat, man, Jason.
My pleasure.
I think Sean said that three of us should get on a pod together. I'm pretty sure we have a lot of interesting card-related stuff to talk about
Yeah.
going forward.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So
So, yeah, once again, thanks for joining this pod, Jason. Your Instagram, Yellow Egg Collectibles, I'm going to put it in the description. Do follow him and then check out his stuff and reach out to him if you guys got anything that you want to ask him directly. Cool.
yep.
Jason, anything else?
No, thanks again for the time and arranging all this. Yeah, I hope to get in touch with more people in the hobby and growing the hobby together. All right, so take care,
Awesome stuff.
everybody. Yeah,
Okay, man. Cool. All right. Thanks, guys, for
talk
watching.
to
Till
you.
the next one. Kabos out.